Thank you. I am really sorry about this confusion. It's also a little sad for me because I find that most of what I have to say was already covered in the presentation that was scheduled after mine. So I would have liked Mr. Vishwanath to have been in the position that I'm in right now, which is to find a presentation in front of him where everything has mostly been said. But anyway, let me start. So our company, Oak Ridge Energy, we focus on stressed assets. So we work with financial institutions and we developers, projects which have been stranded for various reasons over the past 3-4 years. And we work on turning them around and financially restructuring and also implementation of such projects. And clearly that's why this topic is of great importance to us. Now, sir, a lot of us have been talking about these 6,000 megawatts. And I think it's something that it's a really staggering number, right? So if this happened, I think our total state Genco is probably about generation capacity is about 15, 16,000. And this is 6,000 stranded. So I think it makes sense at this point in time to go through the timeline and see why this happened in the first place. Now, as the old people in the gas-based power sector, such as I've been in this business for about 10 years. As we know, from 2008 to 2010, most of the gas allocations were made by the empowered group of ministers. And all of them were made on a policy of readiness to consume. And this was the stated policy of the government of India. It was issued as a press note in October 2008 that if your plant is ready to consume gas, you will be given the gas. And this happened for 2 years. And in the middle, there was a gas dispute which put into question the allocation methodology and the pricing methodology. That was resolved in May 2010, and there was one very big meeting in 2010, in July 2010, where the EGOM on gas met and took a stock of the existing gas-based power plants. And CEA was told at that time to go and review the status of these projects and that they would be given gas as and when these projects achieve commissioning. And this was the policy in that point in time. Although it was never specifically stated that gas will be given, it was very clear that if you could demonstrate progress on your projects, gas would be granted. And this was the basis on which not only developers took investment decisions, but also banks, which are public financial institutions, they've lent huge amounts of money. And across the country, about 9,000 megawatts of power capacity was set up by March 2012. And when the same EGOM on gas sat and they took a call that the gas which was supposed to ramp up from 60 to 80 SCMD had actually gone down from 60 to 40. So the availability of gas for the power sector itself was in great question, and so gas allocations were set aside, and it was not allocated at that point in time. This was this situation, of course, has been in steady state, and nothing really has been moving for the past 2-3 years. In the meanwhile, RIL has been very steady in its decline of gas, and now we have absolutely no gas for power from the RIL KGD6 fields. And across the country, there's about 14,000 megawatts of stranded gas-based capacity, which is operating at zero PLF. And this is where we are today. So this is the magnitude of the problem, which is that we have about, in Andhra itself, there is about 7,500 old and new, which are operating suboptimally. This is 6,000 megawatts, which is at zero PLF, but another 1,200-1,300 at a very nominal PLF. And this is the total gas-based power capacity of the country, which is about 24,000 megawatts. So the government at this point has come out with a scheme, and I think most of us know what the scheme is all about. It talks about various stakeholders to make sacrifices and basically to ensure that banks get enough funds to service their debt. And thereby, one of the provisos is also that the developer should forego his return on equity. And apart from this, there's also provisions for, there's also a requirement that states have to participate. VAT has to be waived, CST, octroi, etc. And only when this waiver takes place, will they be eligible, will plants in their state be eligible to participate in this scheme. Essentially, the scheme says that all developers of stranded gas-based capacity with less than 25-30% PLF will participate. There's about 3,500 crores available and about 0.94 to 1.2 rupees of subsidy depending upon your operating PLF. And the total availability is this. Now, an interesting statistic here is that 14,000 megawatts with a subsidy of about 1 rupee actually comes to about 3,500 crores. So in some shape or form, if this entire capacity were to be made to run at 30% PLF, it will, the subsidy is available. The problem is not in the availability of subsidy. Probably the subsidy will be available. The problem is the economics and whether anybody will buy this power. So we did a few numbers based on gas-based capacity, old plants and new plants, because old plants have a much higher station heat rate and operate less efficiently. So we find that in case of old plants, we find a completely different cost dynamics. But new plants, particularly in the side of, let's say, Andhra, Gujarat, Maharashtra, these plants are reasonably well positioned to generate power at a viable tariff of about 4.5, 5 rupees. And with some subsidy of about 50 paisa to 1 rupee, it's probably possible to sell this to the utilities. I think this has been mentioned before. One of the important success factors will be who is actually going to buy this expensive power, because we've been hearing about how Andhra itself is power surplus. And Mr. Jain was, I think, very practical to view that if you don't need the power, you can probably trade it. You can sell it in the short-term market, and there's about 50% arbitrage. We estimate about 50% arbitrage available, 50 paisa arbitrage per kilowatt hour. The bigger problem in this scheme is going to be the risk balancing, which we've been requesting the Ministry of Power to take a look at. Because most of the gas supply contracts have 90% or 100% take or pay obligations, which means that if you do not offtake the gas, you have to pay for it anyway. But that's not how our power purchase agreements are structured. Now, gas plants in Andhra have been facing this issue for the past 10 years. Whenever they are asked to back down, the power market is structured such that the fixed charge is given for the plants and no variable charge will be given. But the gas market is not structured like that, because these are international contracts and GAIL is sourcing this gas from the international market. So when they do that, they will have to pay to their suppliers, and so they charge back to back. So now the real challenge we'll be facing, and we've been talking to financial institutions about this, is that a new scheme should not make an existing situation even worse for players in the market. And there is a very realistic risk that if you were to offer gas under this scheme and that power does not find offtake in that particular time frame, take or pay obligations itself can hit the P&L of the developer, making it impossible for him to service debt. And this in a scenario where he's already making a 0% return on equity, where he has no return on equity. So so clearly there is a problem of equity or return on equity in this scheme. So we have to now look at this very critically and examine how these risks can be balanced. There are a lot of PPA issues also which need to be looked at. I understand one of the old long-standing issues in Andhra particularly is the 2.5% rebate, which is not substantial in case of 3 rupees and 4 rupees tariffs. But if you're looking at 6 rupees and 7 rupees tariffs, this is 2.5% is going to be extremely high. And this is the prepayment, this is the rebate for early payment. So this is something which needs to be relooked at. These kind of clauses need to be removed. Some equitability has to be ensured so that the contracts can be equally structured. This is the prepay. If you pay if your customer pays in a day or two, then there's a 2.5% rebate available for early payment, which is typical in all contracts. So this 2.5% is not as substantial an amount in a 3 rupee or a 4 rupee PPA as it is in a 7 rupee or an 8 rupee PPA. So how do you, so this is something that really needs to be looked at, and if this can be taken out, it will probably substantially help. Now all of these would not be of great issue if you are allowing a developer also to make a reasonable return on equity. But if his ROE is going to be 0 and he anyway has no cash in the bank, to give another 2.5% rebate is going to be an extremely difficult thing. Now I think Mr. Ravinder had rightly noted that gas-based power plants are moving internationally also and should possibly move to intermediate load and peak load. Whether our combined cycle plants can work in peak load, there are some models available, but they have not really been tested because most of our capacity is on base load. Now one of the thoughts which we have been talking to states about is a state probably in this kind of scheme needs to look beyond what is called a conventional power purchase agreement, where we say this is your capacity charge, this is your variable charge, add both of them and we'll pay you so much at the end of the month. Why can't states look at models where they take plants on short-term operating leases, and they the fuel is given to the utility or the plant itself, who basically using the plant as a tolling service. These kind of things can probably be a far more simpler contract structure than going for a PPA which has its own clauses and LDs and this and that, which developers in this position may not be able to provide. So that's all I have, and any questions? Yes, sir.
Mike.
First is that that two-part thing, you are right, and because I mean the variable charges take-off pay could be mitigated if we have LNG and where the gasification could be modulated. But if we have a gas which cannot be moderated, then take and pay will be there.
Yeah.
But if you enter into a medium-term single price contract in the market, where with minimum 80% or 85% take-off clause, then that backing down orders will not come, So
In the power purchase agreement.
yeah, because medium-term contracts, short-term contracts are not single-part contracts. They are also in the work for. Two-part is a conventional long-term model of this thing. So we will need that to address this question of minimum take-off of gas aligned with the PPA.
So what if the utility refuses to, if you don't get dispatched
No,
for
no,
that day,
medium-term
basically?
people want that because then somebody buys power for 2 years and he knows he wants it. So they want 85% availability. They are ready to pay you a penalty if they don't take off power.
Okay.
And then there are options in the market that sometimes there is a distress, then you could divert power to a third party also instead of backing down.
So that may not work in this scheme because the.
So I mean one can work its way, thoda sa solution hai
Possibly.
isme. But major concern was 30% PLF operating with a 1 or 2
Sir,
months.
this, I mean, you mentioned this before. This is actually, in my view, this is an annualized PLF, which will be measured year on year over 2 years. Now, possibly if this
So
is
run
a
for 3 months, don't run for 3
exactly,
months. I don't
that's
know.
possibly the way it's going
I
to
don't
work,
know.
and it will probably not work in monsoon months, depending upon the health of the
Second thing
monsoon.
is very important, which I want to say, is that if you read CA's 12th plan document or even the earlier document, there was a directive from the earlier planning commission, Yojana Bhavan, that we must reduce our carbon emission and in absolute terms as well as in per unit terms, per capita terms, And then the gas was the thrust area because, from hydrocarbons when you make electricity, the CO2 that is generated is only 25%. If the coal 1 unit gives 2 kilograms of CO2, this gives only 50.5 kilograms. So instead of looking at 6 rupees thermal, and 4 rupees wind, non-dispatchable, I mean, why doesn't the government thinks in terms of backing down old 100 megawatt antiquated, inefficient coal guzzling power plants of Neyveli thermal power station and things like that, and promote these gas-based plants at a proper PLF so that we will have, we'll have more environmental friendly. Gas plants are the next to the renewable in terms of environment friendliness. That has been forgotten in the whole debate. That's the point.
Absolutely.
If you see the international definition of clean tech, the energy efficiency production, along with renewables, high efficient combined cycle power projects have been added to in the clean tech. So I think there could be a recommendation from the panel that when there can be an RPO in the present situation and the next 2-3 years, there should be something called gas purchase obligation or gas projects obligation at some percentage that the DISCOMs have to buy, because ultimately the buck starts at DISCOM. If they don't buy, all your policy of the value chain and other things is gone. So there has to be some sort of obligation or towards the DISCOMs, like hydropower is being considered. I think to bail out some of those things have also to be
Yeah,
considered.
sir, actually, this huge lull which we pointed out between 2012 and 2015, we were suggesting these kind of schemes wherein you make it obligatory to buy gas-based power, etc. But, we've never found any traction at any level for this particular area, because most people say that this is a concurrent subject. It is the call of states to take. They are not even able to fulfill their conventional renewable power obligations and conventional solar power obligations. How can we ask them to buy another 10% of gas-based power? So, I mean, if it's possible, great, but I don't really know how practical.
I'll just intervene. There is already a clean power obligation. Papers already being moved out in the Ministry of Power, which means gas-based power plant and hydro-based power plants, along with the renewable power. There is already a paper which was earlier UPA government. The paper was already mooted out because 20 megawatt and 25 megawatt, more than that, you don't consider hydro power. You don't consider as a renewable.
Small, yeah. only
Similarly, a waste to energy, that is not being considered as a renewable energy. So now the Electricity Act amendment, which is coming up, is going to take consideration of all these things. So that's, I think. One more question, I'll just ask. Hello. I'll just ask one question. Basically, you were talking about the coal ordinance bill and the auctions which have taken place right now and the formulated. What do you think? There is a cartelization or not in the coal block, this thing? Because some of the power, some of the coal has been moved, sold at 120 rupees, and in adjacent mines, the coal was auctioned at 1200 rupees. How do you justify all that?